Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Rock of Ages podcast. It's your girl, Dr. Hope Kariuki. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages at Rock Podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, link is down below for the PayPal and the m-pesa till number. Today's topic is using God as your reference. I was just thinking about it. Like in our adult life, we need a referee in our CVs, and most times we forget the real reference, the one who is a referee above all referees. One reference that's above all reference is God. We are going to talk about what it means to use God as your reference in life. In seasons of change, especially when stepping into new roles or paths, we often feel like we lack the right connections or credentials. But what if God Himself is your reference? Let's explore this idea together. What does it mean to use God as your reference? Using God as your reference means placing your identity, confidence, and validation in Him. It's trusting that His works in your life speaks louder than any worldly qualification. When people see you, they'll see God's fingerprints all over your life. Scripture reference for today is Philippians chapter 1 verse 6. Being confident of this very thing, that He which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Don't worry, the hath and the thee and the thy. I'm reading from the King James Version today. There's a song that comes to my mind. We used to sing it with my sister when we were younger. We are young, but when we were younger. And it used to go, I'm just trying to get my voice. He who began a good work in me will be faithful to complete it. He who started His work will be faithful to complete it in me. La 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 la. Something along those lines. The Bible is full of people who had no credentials but were chosen and equipped by God. Take Moses, for instance. He felt unqualified to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, but God reassured him in Exodus chapter 3 verse 12, and God said, I will be with you. God's presence was Moses' reference. I love that. God's presence was Moses' reference. Or consider David, a shepherd boy chosen to be king. In 1 Samuel 16 verse 7, God tells Samuel, the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks in the heart. God validated David long before others recognized his potential. Same to Joseph. Joseph was picked out of all his other brothers, even after being sold by his own brothers, and even after going to jail and forgetting kabisa that he was the chosen one. But God never forgot. God is always there. So how do we make God our reference practically? Here are 3 steps. 1, you can anchor yourself in His word. You should anchor yourself in His word. Stay rooted in Scripture. His promises remind us of who we are and whose we are. Jeremiah 29:11. For I alone know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to fail you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. Number 2, live with integrity. When you walk in alignment with God's principles, your life becomes evidence of His work in you. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. And the last point, embrace your journey. Sometimes it's so hard to own our story, all the dark parts, especially the dark and the ugly, the dirty history. We don't want to own your story, but it's important to own your complete story, your whole story, because that's what makes you you. Without all those bitter parts, scary parts, the dirty parts, it's not you. It's just a filtered version of you, of which God accepts us as we are, whole with all the bad parts, with all the good parts. He will still use us as we are. So Romans 8 verse 28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for good to those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. Even in your detour, as long as you've been called by God to do his will, he will work it through you. And always remember, when you feel unqualified or unsure, God's testimony in your life is your greatest reference. His work in you is undeniable, and his approval is what matters the most. Trust him and his light, and let it shine through you. Thank you for joining me today. Let me know in the comments how God has been your reference, and let's encourage each other. And thank you so much for joining today's bit. Make sure to check out our channel at Rock Podcast on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, and where else? And Threads. All the social media platforms you can find us. Bye!